You may have heard the expression, failure to plan is a plan to fail. I hate that expression. And the main reason is that my planning skills, let me say it like this, have not been optimal. I've made a couple of big breakthroughs recently. I'd like to share them with you because particularly if you've struggled with planning like I have, they'll probably be quite useful. Even if you are good, they could help you optimize your planning process. So the first thing is we have two functions which are really useful in planning. One is the vision and the other is the actions. And how our vision and our actions interact will determine how successfully we work with these things, how much it takes us towards what we really want to create. The big insight for me is that these are actually two functions in the brain. Two very, very different sets of networks get involved. On the visioning side, it's more the default mode network, which activates what Richard Boyzatis, who's done a lot of research on this area, calls the positive emotional attractors. It's expansive. We feel in touch with possibilities and all the things we can do. So that's the vision side of it. On the action side of it, we have what's called the task positive network, which again, Richard Boyzatis aligns with what he calls the negative emotional attractors. And so we have these two parts, and they have two different sets of skills. The default mode network is more diffuse and open. That's the vision piece. The task positive network is really about getting things done, and it narrows the focus and it keeps us on track. The problem that happens, which gets in the way of a lot of effective visioning, planning, is not knowing that these are two different skills and that they actually can't work at the same time. We can switch between them very quickly, particularly as we become aware of their existence and how they feel in us. We can switch more quickly between them, but we can't do them at the same time. And what happens, which gets in the way, is if we're visioning and we move into the task positive, into that action focused bit, without realizing that we actually still need to be in touch with the visioning piece. Similarly, if we're trying to do something and get a plan together and we're still too attached to the vision piece, that would actually stop us from seeing through to what the really effective actions are. The solution is actually quite simple. It's to get to know what it feels like when you're in touch with that spacious possibility that comes with the vision, and know that that is not meant to be done. That's meant to be your fuel. That's your fuel for getting you to actually take the actions that you need to do. Similarly, when you're in the action mind, don't try and dream, because that dreaming process won't happen in a way that feels okay. That part, if you remember, belongs to the negative emotional attractor, and it won't help you feel expansive, but it is very good at doing. So that's the first insight, that we have these two very different aspects of our brains which help us. One is vision, one is action, and we want to find out more about how we work best with them so that we can do the actioning when it's the right time and the visioning when it's the right time. This leads me to my second insight, which was so helpful for me, which is that, I don't know about you, but I vary from day to day. My moods go up and down a bit, and my level of inspiration goes up and down. So what this means is that we really want to have some way of bringing ourselves back to that vision piece regularly. Some way of connecting in without worrying about the how, without worrying about the actual planning piece, the actual task positive piece that I mentioned earlier, the doing bit. We need to connect into that, and we need to do it regularly and ideally as much as possible at the beginning of each session of work, planning, whatever we're doing. And the reason is that this will bring us into that much more expansive state where we feel possibility and where that motivation to do, that it's the makes sense to do it because we're in touch with that vision. It won't happen by itself. Maybe it does for some people, but for most of us, myself included, it won't happen naturally on its own. We actually have to develop a habit almost of getting in touch with our personal vision in this alive way as a starting point for what we're doing with our day. So coming back to that wonderful expression that I started with, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. Well, what if we actually just loosened that a little bit and thought around how vision is really about something that we want to bring into the world? And the best thing we can do is to get more in touch with that, refine it more, and then connect that to the actions that we're doing. So it's not a binary thing. It's not a failure to plan, it's a plan to fail. It's more like, what do I really want to create? And how am I going to do that?